Welcome back to the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about the 10 Wonders of Unova. So for those of you who don't know, this is a series we've been doing for a while now on my channel. We've been revisiting each region and giving them their kind of 10 wonders because Paldea got its 10 sites and Kitakami got its 7 wonders. So I wanted to do the same for the other regions, Sinnoh, Johto, all of that, and now we're at Unova. So I think we got to start with the most obvious one in Unova, and that is Chargestone Cave, in my opinion. Chargestone Cave is so freaking cool. It's literally a wonder. You've got floating rocks everywhere. I imagine this one might even be like one of the wonders of the Pokemon world, not just specific to Unova, but if it makes that list, it absolutely has to make Unova's own list. This place is so cool. I can remember being, Black and White came out in 2010, so I was 10 years old, and I can remember just like being mind blown by this place. It's so freaking cool. There's tons of electric Pokemon that have kind of made it its home, and a lot of them use like electromagnetism, which is really neat as well, to kind of float and all. But yeah, Chargestone Cave is so freaking cool. This should be on everyone's list, in my opinion, which does remind me, let me know in the comments below your list of your 10 wonders for Unova. Now, next up, we have the White Forest or Black City. Now, this one would obviously be version exclusive, because if you're playing Pokemon White, you won't see Black City, and if you're playing Pokemon Black, you won't see White Forest. So this would be version exclusive, but White Forest and Black City are both super, super impressive places. Man, these places are really cool. You have the just nature and like the leaves falling in the White Forest, and then Black City is not just your ordinary city. It stands out from the others. It's very techno, very I guess Tron-like, honestly, if we're familiar with that movie. Just super future, super innovative. These both do a great job at representing the past and the future, which kind of in itself represents like dreams and ideals or whatever, you know. So it incorporates those Unova themes that have been present since the original dragon and the brothers that split the original dragon. So it just makes sense that White Forest and Black City would be on this list. Again, they're so cool. Look at these places, guys. They're so cool. Now, when we think about Unova Wonders, we're probably going to be thinking about places that appear in Pokemon Black, Pokemon White, Pokemon Black 2, and Pokemon White 2. However, there's one Unova location that I think definitely stands to be a wonder and is actually in none of those games, and that is, of course, the Terrarium in the Blueberry Academy. This appears in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's DLC, the Indigo Disc. It is a part of Unova, though. Despite it appearing in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and not being in the Unova games, it is a part of Unova. That's stated several times throughout the game. But yeah, the Terrarium is so freaking cool. I mean, they have literally made a giant, expansive, in fact, 4 giant, expansive environments in one place. It's all artificial. It's underwater, so like the sky you're seeing is artificial as well. And Pokemon have actually made their homes here. Not only that, but they seem to have made a habitat where Pokemon that are really rare or possibly maybe even extinct can thrive as well. Like we see Shieldon and Cranidos living in a part of the terrarium, Cleavor, and also Hisuian Quillfish. So yeah, this place is super impressive. It also does have some really cool callbacks to other places in Unova, like how you have the Chargestone Cavern, which is clearly pulled from the Chargestone Cave, so they made like an artificial Chargestone Cave. And then also they do have the area where you can find the Stellar Haxorus. If you kind of look at that from a bird's eye view, is very similar, if not identical, to the layout of the nature preserve from Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. So either this was the nature preserve the whole time, which I doubt, or they made an artificial nature preserve, which, given that's what they did with Chargestone Cave, I imagine that's what they did here. But either way, it's super cool. Out of world, like in the real world, a cool thing that happens here too is when you're playing through this area, you actually get kind of little hints to Unova music, like how you have, for example, Drifale City gets like part of its music played in the coastal zone. So yeah, it's super cool. I think the Terrarium is definitely one that is a wonder. I mean, it's so impressive. And I even I want to know more about the terrarium and its foundation. I wonder if it was built by the same people who built the marine tube, which brings us to our next wonder, the marine tube. This is another one that, again, first time playing Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, just like when I played Black and White and went to Chargestone Cave. When I saw the marine tube, I was like, I mean, I can remember just always just sitting in there, you know, looking, waiting, hoping I get the Whale Lord, get to see the Whale Lord, you know? I mean, it's such a cool place. It's also underwater. You have Pokemon swimming around. I don't know if it's ever stated if they're wild Pokemon or if this is like an aquarium, but I think the vibe is supposed to be they're wild Pokemon, which makes this even cooler, right? And then it connects Humalao City to Undella Town, which is just really impressive in itself. But yeah, I mean, the fact that it is underwater and you have the terrarium underwater does make me wonder if this was perhaps made by the same person, since they are both in Unova, but that's a theory for another time, I guess. Calming down a little bit, we've got a very simple one, but it's another one that I do feel like it's an obvious one, and that is the Sky Era Bridge. This is the bridge, because Unova does have like 4 billion bridges. This is the bridge that specifically connects the Pinwheel Forest to Castelia City. It's a gorgeous bridge, but the real reason I wanted to put it as a wonder is because, I mean, GameFreak loves this bridge, so I feel like they would put it as a wonder, and it is very beautiful. I mean, you know, it looks like Archaludon was possibly modeled after this bridge. When they, you know, revisited Unova in the terrarium, they make Archaludon, and it looks very similar, so that's kind of cool in itself. But then also, it is very heavily promoted in, like, marketing and merchandise and stuff. Like, you can see I can have right there the Kalos poster. I also have the Unova poster. It's not up, but it is of the Sky Era Bridge, because that's the bridge in Unova. That's the main one. That's honestly, in my opinion, probably the prettiest one. I do also like Village Bridge and Marvelous Bridge a lot. Any of the bridges, honestly, I could accept, but I'm going with Sky Era Bridge for mine. Hopping back over to Eastern Unova, we have the Abyssal Ruins, or you could say the Undella Bay, because it holds the Abyssal Ruins, but this is so mysterious as one of those things that if, you know, we get Unova remakes, which I don't think is an if, I think that's just a question of when, you know, we will someday, you know, like, even if it's 2030, we will. But when we revisit Unova, I definitely hope we get more explained about the Abyssal Ruins. I remember as a kid, you know, I'm gullible, I'm tricked easy. I remember all the, like, hey, if you go here and do this, Lugia appears in the Abyssal Ruins, or Kyogre appears. You know, none of that's true. I spent hours trying to figure that out. It's not true. So take it from 12-year-old me, it's not going to happen. But yeah, these are a really mysterious place. A very ancient place, could tell us a lot about Unova's history. You know, I'd love to know why they're in the bottom of the ocean now. There's so many questions surrounding this. Is this tied to Atlantis, which then you could tie to Area Zero, because that's codename is Atlantis, and then the signature abilities of Koraidon, Miraidon are references to Atlantis. It's a whole can of worms. In the anime, they tied it to Meloetta and the Therium forms, but obviously anime does not equal games, so it's just everything we learn about these ruins just presents us with more questions. I'd like some answers, but either way, they're very impressive ruins, and they do tell us a lot about Unova's history, and leave a lot of questions we want to know about Unova's history, so they are a wonder. Next up, we have the Giant Chasm. The Giant Chasm is a chasm, if you can believe it, formed by a meteor, the meteor that specifically seemed to carry Kyurem on it. This is a really neat place. It's spooky. It's got some kind of like eerie vibes to it. But most importantly to me is the hold this chasm has over the region, specifically over the nearby town. I am completely blanking on, I believe it's Lacunosa town. Don't hold me to that. But this town lives in fear of the Giant Chasm, and they literally set a curfew because they don't want to get eaten by whatever monsters in the Giant Chasm. And so it's so cool to see, like, this area not only be pretty and eerie, but also hold a lot of weight to its inhabitants or nearby inhabitants, and kind of have influence over their daily lives and become a part of their culture. That's a really cool thing to see. You see stuff like that in the real world, and so it's cool whenever they implement it into the Pokemon world as well. Next up, we have the Desert Resort. The Desert Resort is interesting, to say the least. They call it a resort, but it's a desert So, doesn't exactly give resort vibes. But then Black 2 and White 2, they are starting to populate that area. It's where Joint Avenue is, and there's some more houses and stuff. But the Desert Resort is also home to the Desert Ruins, and if you make it to the bottom of there, you can find Valcarona. So again, this is a place that is pretty. It also sits right on the ocean, but is a desert, and it also has, a lot of history to it, and I guess depth. It's not just your average desert. There's some cool lore there. The Darmanitan statues out in front of it. It's a pretty neat place for sure. I'm a fan of it. Desert Resort would absolutely be on my personal wonders list. Unova, though, honestly, this is a hard region to do. There's a lot of great options in Unova. Next up, we have the Moor of Osiris, and I think some people might, maybe disagree with me on this one. I know it's not, like, quite as stunning as, say, the Abyssal Ruins or Chargestone Cave, but the Moor of Osiris is, for one, it has a lot of history because it has its ties to the Swords of Justice and Keldeo, which I think always bumps things up for me in making it a wonder. But also, I do think it's really pretty. I love swampy areas. I'm a southern coastal boy, so I love me a good swamp, and I love this area a lot. I love that, you can kind of skate around on the ice in the winter. This was such a cool place to explore. It's very pretty. I would love to see it in the modern games, like, with the 3D art style and everything. I think that would be really cool. Like, this place in the Sword and Shield or the Let's Go art style would be, like, mind-blowing, in my opinion. So, yeah, hopefully we see that one day. Fingers crossed. Please, GameFreak. But, yeah, big fan of Moor of Osiris. Absolutely going to be on my list. And then right near there, we have the Dragon Spiral Tower. This is another one that is really neat and all. The kind of walk to it where you're in the woods and there's that little bridge going over the water. That's spooky in itself and kind of beautiful, like hauntingly beautiful in itself. But then the tower itself also is kind of the start of a big legend, right? Like, this is where got his either Zekrom or Reshiram, depending on the version you're playing. This is also said to be tied to the brothers and the original dragon. So it's a big part of Unovan lore, Unovan history, the lore behind Zekrom and Reshiram, which are, like god tier legendary Pokemon. So yeah, absolutely. Dragon Spiral Tower. I feel like this is another one that has to be on everybody's list. But again, no judgment if it's not on yours. Let me know what yours is in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all that fun stuff. And until next time, I will see all of you later.